Is it afternoon? Yes, it is. Good afternoon. I hear you've been having all sorts of fun all morning. I missed it all. I apologize, but I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm excited about the topic. As you know, Rebecca works for me, and I hear a lot about what the issues are on campus, and I work really hard to support her. And this activity here is certainly thanks to Sherry and the Equal Opportunity Office. No, Office of Equality. Office of Equal. Yeah, it's like the letters are reversed for me. Anyway. But welcome everybody. I hope you had a good lunch. Hope you've had a good morning, and I'm honored to get to introduce your after lunch speaker. Kind of. And they have a script, so I got to put my glasses on. I guess there are people at a distance. Hello, those of you watching remotely. Welcome to you too, and hope you managed to sneak lunch into here too. I'm Mark Hoyt. I'm the Vice Chancellor for Information Technology, and I'm thrilled to be setting the stage for the keynote from Dr. Ann Nettler, Vice President of Consulting for Grackle Docs. And I just found out that we use Grackle for checking all of the Google Docs that we have as a way to make sure they're accessible. So that's outstanding. Ann's a member of the Association of Higher Education and Disability Group, AHED, and the Council for Advancement of Standards in Higher Education, CAS. She's co-authored and updated policies and standards for the entire field of higher education, and also actively serves on the working group for Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, our favorite new acronym, WCAG, that we get to adhere to and make all of our policies. She's a published researcher, sought-after speaker. Obviously, we sought after her to get her here. And has expertise that covers a breadth of topics, including digital accessibility, digital rights, policy, advocacy, little feedback on the mic, organization-wide access, and more. I just had a nice little lunch conversation with Ann, and it's impressive the depth and the breadth that she has. And I want you to know when you get out of here that the faculty from the Faculty Senate and other faculty groups are starting to go, oh my God, this is real. How are we going to get this to happen? And we need help. So all of you are charged after Ann's talk to tell them how to fix their docs and their websites and their research reports to make sure they meet the new standards, and we are in compliance. So thank you, and Ann, welcome.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ann. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm really excited to be here. I have been looking forward to this for months. I'm like adjusting my phone so that I can try to keep track of my time. I'm not very good at that. I am not going to go over all this bio because Mark just did a fantastic job, but I will tell you that the QR code that is on the screen goes to my LinkedIn. So if you'd like to connect with me, I promise to request your friend request, or to accept your friend request. I have been in higher ed and higher ed affiliated, especially through my work at Grackle for over 19 years now. So when I get to speak to higher ed audiences, it makes my heart happy. This is where I started. I still am a professor. I teach in a master's program and a doctoral program at an HBCU in Delaware, and love getting to do that. I actually teach all online, so if y'all have questions about online classes and accessibility, come talk to me. I want to start by just making sure we have the same definition of digital accessibility. So digital accessibility refers to the inclusive practice of removing barriers that prevent interaction with or access to websites, digital tools and technologies by people with disabilities. That's by, according to the Georgetown University School of Law. So what are we talking about? We are removing a barrier that has likely been in place for decades that we simply didn't know existed. Maya Angelou said, we do our best until we know better. And then when we know better, we do better, right? That's what this is about. Digital accessibility is a marathon. It is not a sprint. So despite the law that I'm going to review with you in just a moment, know that taking the first step is still the most important step. What we're going to talk about today is just some common misconceptions about digital access. I'd like to demystify digital accessibility for you at least a little bit, but I also want everyone to be able to leave from a place of understanding and into a place of action. I want you to be able to have things that you take away from this that you could start doing today that will make a difference. So those are what we're going to do. I'm going to go over the legal stuff because it's important. We need to know what it says. I'm going to hit on some heavy hitters in digital access. So text, color, images, especially for my STEM friends or my music faculty, my art faculty, any of those individuals in the room. Web and document layouts, multimedia, hyperlinks. We'll have some key takeaways and then we'll wrap it up. So some myths that I get, and if you work anywhere in tech or digital access, you have heard them as well. Things like, well, creating digitally accessible content is hard. It's only hard when you don't know how to do it. Once you realize how to do it, it is actually incredibly easy. It's all about being proactive. Accessible content must be only plain text. It has to be boring. I've heard from many individuals at the different organizations where I get to consult. I consult in higher ed, but I also consult in corporate, in government, in nonprofit, and we are a global company at Grackle Docs, so I have clients all over the world, and I hear this from everyone. It has to be boring. That is so not true. Your content can still be innovative and inspiring and gripping and accessible, and I'm going to show you how. Making things digitally accessible only affects people who are blind. Not true. Individuals who have learning disabilities, ADD or ADHD, psychological impairments, chronic health conditions, and individuals who may be blind or low vision, individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing, all of those individuals benefit from digitally accessible content. Frankly, all of us benefit from digitally accessible content. Accessible content can't be engaging. We talked about that. I need an IT degree to make things accessible. My undergraduate degrees are in music and in Christian ministries. My master's is in counseling and my doctorate is in leadership. None of those are IT, but I do this all the time. So no, you don't, I promise. So just a couple stats. In the last US Census, 54 million Americans identified as having a disability. That's about 20% of our population, 1 in 5 people. Disability is one of the only minority groups that can affect anyone at any time, especially mental health. Mental health conditions tend to present the most when individuals are between the ages of 18 and 25. How old are our students? 18 to 25 on average. Right? So it is very possible that someone enters at NC State not identifying as having a disability, and then that identity changes for them at some point during their journey. In higher education, the vast majority of individuals with disabilities have invisible disabilities. So we wouldn't know that they happen to have a disability, and that's okay. We don't need to know. We simply need to know how to make things proactively accessible. In education, so I think these numbers are incredibly conservative. 19% of all undergraduate students nationwide have a disability. So if you teach, think about how many students are in your classes. Almost 20% of those students likely have a disability. 12% of all graduate students, again, if you teach. Think about how many students that is. Usually we think, hey, that's a really big number. Not when disability is visible and invisible. There are 1.3 billion people in the world that have disabilities, but 2.5 billion, a difference of 1.2 billion, fast math, see how I did that, that need assistive technology to access content. Assistive technology is any kind of technology that allows someone easier, faster, more efficient, more effective access to anything electronic. right? So my cell phone is assistive technology just as much as someone who uses a screen reader, which just as an aside, screen readers are things that would be used by someone who may be blind or low vision. It's as if you use your computer with the monitor turned off and you are only navigating with keyboard commands. The software is telling you where you are in your computer or in that document or in your online course. That's how it works. Both of those things are assistive tech. 10% of all men and 1 in 200 women are colorblind. Many don't know it because color blindness is very rarely shades of black, white, and gray. It is usually color weakness, and I'm going to talk about that later. And then this is the most staggering of the statistics that I have found, and that's 15.7% of all students who apply and get in to an undergraduate program who have a visual impairment, so legally blind, fully blind, low vision. Only 15.7% of them that get in actually get a degree. 15.7%. That is a disgusting graduation rate. 15.7%. Why is that? Because things are not accessible. Because they hit a barrier every single time they try to go to an event or to class or to fill out a form or just simply to be a student like everyone else, right? 15.7%. Why does this matter? This matters because people matter. This matters because disability rights in this country are civil rights, right? We heard from Ms. Schwab earlier talking about the Civil Rights Act. So it passed in '64. People with disabilities weren't added until 1973. See, I got you. So even though there was 9 whole years where people with disabilities still didn't get civil rights, they got them now. So we are having a civil rights conversation today. That's what we're doing. When we make things accessible, we make sure that everyone has the same opportunity. We make sure that everyone gets the same information. We make sure that everyone is engaged in a meaningful way to participate. We create a seat at a table with a microphone for everyone. Did I do something wrong? You didn't. Okay, I didn't do something wrong, guys. Isn't that what we want for all of our students and for all of our colleagues and for everyone within our community? And I like to use the acronym WIRED. I can't take full credit. I developed this with some colleagues at an institution where I used to work. But don't we all want to be wired? Wired for me is in a welcoming, inclusive, respectful, engaging, and diverse environment. I don't know about you, but I want to teach in a wired environment. I want to live in a wired environment. I want to learn in a wired environment. And I want to have communion with those that I know and I work with in an environment that is wired. So here's the law part. And I promise not to make this too legalese. Back in April of 2024, it was passed that there was an update to Title II of the Americans with Disabilities Act. So the Americans with Disabilities Act is the most far-reaching federal piece of legislation that protects individuals with disabilities. Title II of that act is specifically about areas of public accommodation. So areas that receive any sort of government funding, like public universities and colleges, public libraries, government organizations, etc. So it affects Title II, that's us, and it updated, didn't change any of the law, but it added to it. So for the first time ever, there is now an expectation that all electronic information on a website or in an app is proactively digitally accessible and that meets the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, version 2.1, at the AA level. Just so you know, there's 3 levels, A, AA, AAA. AA is where we have to be legally, AAA is above and beyond that, but AA, that's where we're hoping for, right? It's the first time in our nation's history that we have had this extent of an expectation for proactive digital access. This is so exciting, right? We are behind the 8 ball. There are 72 other developed nations that have had these laws on the books for decades. decades, right? And so it applies to all of us, and there is a deadline. So if the institution, in this case, serves a population that is 50,000 people or larger, that does not mean we have 50,000 students. That means that the geographic area that we are charged to serve, in this case, North Carolina, has a population of 50,000 people or more. Pretty much everybody falls in that category. And if that's the category you fall under, the deadline for proactive accessibility is April 24th, 2026. Don't panic. So why else is this important? This is important because it impacts students with and without disabilities. This helps remove barriers for students who may have an inconsistent internet connection. Dr. Day earlier was talking about how the Wi-Fi is not really Wi-Fi-ing. True, right? Or that have slower bandwidth. Some of our students, if they're commuters, they can't afford Wi-Fi at home, so their access to Wi-Fi or internet is either on campus or in the lobby of a Starbucks, where they hope that the 27 other people that are there using the Wi-Fi haven't taken up so much of the bandwidth that they'll actually be able to load their homework assignment on the screen. You know, if you make it accessible, that document is gonna load cleanly every single time. The website cleanly every time. If you've ever tried to load something, even on your phone, and you have bad reception, and it loads, but it's garbled, that's what we're talking about. If there was an image or a chart or a graph, and there's low bandwidth, you usually get the box with an X. If that image was made accessibly, then there would have been a short description of the content of the image in the context it's being used that before was hidden behind it. But when the image can't load, the description will load. So now that student, whether they have a disability or not, can still do their assignment. They can still read their textbook. They can still apply for that resource or sign up for that engaging opportunity that they wanted to participate in. It's important for individuals who only have a smartphone for access. I have students who do not have a laptop, they have a smartphone, and that's literally what they use for everything. What if they have background distractions? What if it's a single parent who works 3 jobs and they generally do their classes online or take 1 class a week in person, and when they can do their homework is at 2 in the morning because the baby is finally asleep, right? But there's videos they have to watch for their online courses, and they don't have headphones, so the only way they can watch it is with the captions on, because if they turn the speakers on, the baby's gonna wake up. What if there aren't any captions? What if the captions aren't very good? Then that person has a barrier as well. And also, what if their first language isn't English? You know how many people are English language learners who play everything with the captions on? Because it's helpful. So what's the user experience like? So some main things we're gonna talk about and examples I'm gonna show you, things like text, color, images, multimedia, hyperlinks. That's what we're gonna start with. So text and color. We want to combine colored text with something else, right? We don't want to just make it red. We want to make it red and bold. Why? Because for one person, in their mind's eye, the way they perceive red might actually be green or gray. So the image that's on the screen shows 3 of the different types of color weakness that someone might have. The image that's all the way in the top left, your left, my right, is what would be considered quote unquote normal vision. So red would be in that like right corner. Well, we see that some people would have noticed that red as a dark green. For some it was orange, for some it was almost pink. And what if it was somewhere along that spectrum? So the example here, class is mandatory. Mandatory is red. If I make it bold, then it doesn't matter if someone doesn't perceive the color in the same way that I do. Also, screen reading or reading software, something that reads content out loud, does not perceive color. So if it's only a different color, that person missed out on the emphasis we were trying to give them. So it's easy. Red and bold, or red and italics, if that's what we want to do. So some text formatting things that are really important. It is okay, first of all, to use bold and italics. Sometimes people are like, oh, but they said plain text, I can't do anything. No, no, no. It's all right. We don't want to use it so much that it takes away from the meaning, but we can use bold and italics. However, we need to do our best to reserve that underline formatting for hyperlinks only. Why? Because if I'm someone with a cognitive impairment, or frankly in this digital age, if I'm anyone, and I see underlined text either on a website or in a document that's in my online course, I'm gonna click on it because it looks like a link. And when nothing happens, my first thought is that link is broken. I am missing information. I am instantly confused, probably frustrated, but that was never meant to be a link. It was just, a word with emphasis. So we want to do whatever we can to reserve the underline function for hyperlinks. And that's an easy thing to do, right? Use bold instead. Done. That's all I have to think about. Font styles. We want to avoid what I usually call like flowery fonts or fonts that look like a cartoon. My father's favorite font is still Comic Sans. I swear. I know, right? I love him anyway. We want to avoid that. We want to use sans serif fonts. Google sans serif fonts. It's a long list. You still have a lot to play with in there. But those are the ones that are going to be the most readable, especially for a person who has a disability that affects how they process printed text. And it's easy to do, right? We just double check. We want to use things that are going to make our text more readable and more accessible. Are there built-in accessibility checkers in Word and PowerPoint and, God help me, in Adobe Pro? Are they there? Yes. Should we use them? Yes. But are they perfect? No. They're a good start, right? So don't avoid using them just because they're not perfect. They will still be helpful, but it requires us and our brains knowing what we really intended, which is frankly what I would want to do anyway. I don't want AI messing with my academic content for my students. I know what it's supposed to say. What about images? So I've got an example for you. There's going to be 2 images on the next slide, and this is all about engaging with our students. So the question that we'd be asking our students is, which of the following options should we use to send you information? Right, so there's an option A and an option B. So when I flip to the next slide, I would like for you, if you're able to raise your hand, I'm going to ask for option A, and then I'll ask for option B. Option A, anyone? Option B. No? This is a trick and not a trick. This is exactly the experience for a student who is blind or low vision when there's no alternative text behind the image that is in the document or on the PowerPoint slide that they're looking at in a PDF, or anywhere else in that email, in that poll that they're being asked for, right? Everyone else can see the image. For everyone else, it looks like this. Option A is a pair of hands holding a smartphone with the screen facing them as though to be looking at the screen, then the text says text message. Option B is a pair of hands typing on a laptop, and on the screen there is an envelope with other communication-related icons swirling around it, and the text email. As a sighted person, I'm going to pick option A every single time. Please text me. You're going to get me way faster. Probably what my students would pick too. But I'm a sighted person. I had access right away. If we had just thought one extra step and added alternative text, this is the text where it hides behind the image, doesn't take anything away from what we wanted our content to look like, but this would have allowed anyone, whether they happen to be blind or low vision or legally blind or somewhere where they don't have good bandwidth or they're using old technology that can't even update anymore, but that's what they have and the image won't load. Any of those scenarios, now you've got good data. Think about it that way. If I'm giving a poll, if I'm doing a form, or if I'm asking a survey, I want good data. I'm a data nerd. I love assessment. And if my data and my data set is not whole, I am not doing my job. So how would I do that? Generally speaking, You put your image in, right click, right? Right click, and you're gonna choose, or 2-finger click, Mac users. You're gonna click on View Alt Text or Alt Text, and it's gonna open on the right-hand side, usually, this beautiful little box, and in it, there's a text box where you can just type that 2 to 4 sentence description. Or maybe you've put an image somewhere in a document you've created, in a PowerPoint that's now a PDF, on a website, straight into your online course, and it's just decorative. That's okay. You just click that little box in the bottom of the window that says Mark as Decorative. Done. Really important that we do that. Why? Because if there is no alternative text and it hasn't been marked in any way, then when reading software gets to it, it's going to read out loud to the user, image blank, or figure, no alternative text exists. And now that person is wondering, well, what is it? Is it a map? Is it a chart? Is it a graph? Is there something in here that I need? Is it a picture of my professor's dog? Because yes, that's what I would put in. I do it all the time. Is that what, I don't know. I am missing information. I have been left out. Totally unintentionally, right? Totally unintentionally. But that's what happened. So it's easy. Right click, alt text, type a couple sentences. You are done, right? Save the presentation. If you want to reuse the image, you already have the alt text. It's right there. So I'm going to give you an example of alt text and context, right? Because sometimes we get a little carried away with how much we put in alternative text or descriptive text. So I have a map of Australia up on the screen. Let's say I am using that exact same map, but I'm using it and I'm creating a workbook for kindergartners, and their lesson in the workbook is primary colors. So given that context, it's clear to me that the colors of the states in the continent or the country of Australia matter. But the location of them for my 5-year-olds does not matter, because that's not what we're learning about today. So my descriptive text might be map of Australia, where the Northern Territory is green, Western Australia is blue, Queensland is purple, and so on. Now let's say I'm using this exact same map, but now I'm putting it in a worksheet that I'm creating for my college-level geography students. So based on that context, the color of the states is no longer relevant, right? What's relevant is the location of the states in the country. This is geography. I need them to learn it so that they can then identify them accurately on an assessment that they'll have later on. So now my descriptive text might be map of Australia. When described like the face of a clock, the Northern Territory is from 11 to 1 o'clock, Queensland is from 1 to 3 o'clock, New South Wales is from 3 to 4 o'clock, Victoria is from 4 to 5 o'clock, etc. Completely different alternative text, same image. So what I mean is, if we don't need the extra detail, don't put it in. That could actually be confusing for someone. Think about the context that we're using it in. What if anybody in here has either an affiliation with, you've taught in now or other times in either any STEM kind of programs, music, art? If you have the ability, raise your hand. All right, I'm seeing like at least 30% of the room. Alternative text and images are an even bigger barrier in those different areas. Why? Because there are so many graphs, charts, tables, music notation, images from art galleries. There are so many of them. It can be overwhelming for any faculty member. I have a degree in music. Trust me, I've been the one at institutions doing the alternative text and making accessible whole music theory textbooks. It's not easy. So what should I do? Here's some general rules. When do I put in alternative text? And this goes for everybody. If the image, graph, chart, anything visual, if it is providing information that is nowhere else in my document or in my presentation or in whatever I'm creating, it gets alternative text. If it is enhancing information that is in my document, but it's enhancing it in a way that is not found anywhere else, it gets alternative text. If it is an example of information that is in my document and that example is not provided anywhere else, it gets alternative text. Those are your three rules of thumb, right? It's giving information that isn't there, it is enhancing information that's there, or it's an example of information. If it doesn't fill any of those checkboxes, it gets marked as decorative. There are different kinds of technology out there in STEM. Equatio is probably the best one I've ever found. I don't work for them, but it will actually create the alternative text for the graphs that it creates and for the equations that you create within it, so you don't have to do it. It's amazing. When we put in a table, we want to put in the real data table, right? The whole thing, not an image of a table, because technology can actually get into a table. So we want to put the real thing in there. And we want to consider both the content that a software allows us to create and whether the student can interact with it accessibly. So we use so many different kinds of third-party softwares with our students all the time, with our colleagues within our departments. Have we ever checked or asked that company a question about their accessibility? Right, so our stuff might be accessible. Like say, hey, Anne, I know that I make my documents accessible. I use that Grackle Workspace Checker in my Google Docs, which, P.S., all of you have access to. I do all these things, right? But I had never thought about the fact that my students also have to use Edfinity when they take my class, or Pearson My Chem Lab when they take my class, or fill in the blank software here, right? When we talk about proactive digital access from a legal perspective, even though that is third-party content that the university has no control over, right? If the university is using it, we are still liable if it is inaccessible. So it's really important to ask those questions. Also, as an aside, is any institution, university, college, within the United States of America going to be 100% accessible by the deadline? No! Okay? We want to be as close as we can be. Frankly, there's no such thing as 100% accessible. Content changes too quickly for that to ever be a thing, but we can get close. Do you need a hand? I've had some faculty members come to me and say, like, I have 200 images in the bank of questions that I have in our learning management system, whatever it is that you use, and I use them to create, all of the exams that I give in my course. How am I going to go create alt text for 200 images? Well, one, if we ever upload a new image, let's make sure we upload them proactively with alt text, but ChatGPT or Gemini, it can be your friend too. It's a great tool. If you upload an image into ChatGPT, Gemini, one of those AIs, a good AI, preferably even an academic-related AI, and you give it a context, right? Maybe this is what I'm using, but it's in an exam, and the students are supposed to identify the shape, so they would be able to see the yellow, I happen to know it's a square, on the screen with the points, with the different corners, given names, and the degree in the corners. They'd be able to see that. What if I can't see it? Or what if I have a learning disability? I can see it, but I need to hear it out loud and see it at the same time in order for my brain to process the information. I can tell Gemini I need an accessible, what do I have here? An accessible brief description or alternative description of the attached image being used in this case, I say a college geometry course, and I could say exam. The description should not name the type of image. So I literally put this in, and this is what it gave me. Square, ABCD, with all 4 interior labels. Well, this one I didn't tell it couldn't tell me it was a square. So it might say, like, some sort of parallelogram with ABCD with all 4 interior angles labeled 90 degrees and tick marks indicating 4 equal sides. It did that. I just uploaded in there, right? So if you have a ton of images and you're thinking, how am I going to get on top of this? That deadline is looming. Use AI. Check it afterwards. We're not just going to trust that AI gets it right all the time. We know better. But use that as a help, right? There are ways that we can do this and make it easier for ourselves. Formatting documents. It actually is easier than you think. So I'm going to give you an example, and now I am very clear anytime I use this example that individuals with disabilities experience those disabilities very differently. I could have 10 students that on paper have the same diagnosis. I guarantee you that all 10 of them will experience it in slightly different ways. They may benefit from different accommodations. They may benefit from different types of proactive accessibility. So that said, these are just 3 examples of what it might look like in the mind's eye of an individual who has a learning disability that affects how they process text. The first one, all the way to your left, is called rivers. So literally in their mind's eye, their brains take the text, this is real text, you really could read it, and they squish the letters together, leaving empty white space that runs like rivers down the page. Imagine trying to read that in context without any reading software reading it aloud to you at the same time. The one in the center is called swirls. It's kind of like if you have a still pond and you were to drop a drop of water in a still pond and you have those concentric circles that comes out from that center drop. In that person's mind's eye, what's at the very center of their gaze appears clear, but everything around that in the text is swirled or unclear. Again, think about context. Think about if I have to read in a 37-page article without reading software because the article isn't accessible, so I can't use my software, how much am I going to get out of that article? Not much, right? And then the last one is called coding, which is sometimes similar to what people may consider something like dyslexia, so where that person's brain interchanges letters with numbers. And this, what it really would say in real life is this message serves to prove how our minds can do amazing things, impressive things. In the beginning it was hard, but now on this line, your mind is reading it automatically without even thinking about it. I don't know about you, I've read that out loud over 100 times, and I still have to think about it. So again, what if the content isn't accessible so they can't use their reading software? But if it is accessible, none of those things would be a barrier. They would have the same kind of access, they could do their homework in the same amount of time, because they got their reading done in the same amount of time that everyone else. Or what if it's a colleague that you work with and we're sending out an agenda for our meeting? We're sending out the PowerPoint that we used in the talk that was given earlier that day. That's going to make a difference. And so this is a video of an inaccessible PDF being read by a screen reader. So I'm going to play the video. Imagine that you cannot see what is on the screen, and you are just listening to it. Or perhaps you have some sort of print-related disability where you need to see it and hear it at the same time in order to really process what's happening.
Handout for class. This is the most important piece of failure that so will most likely result in information you will receive in this failing. The class cannot class make sure you are ever part responsible for your lack of and fully understand it. Preparation formicless.
So that made sense. What this really says is handout for class. This is the most important piece of information you will receive in this class. Make sure you read every part of it and fully understand it. Failure to do so will most likely result in you failing the class. I cannot be responsible for your lack of preparation for my class. Right? As a sighted person, I read that very easily. That document looked neat, professional, and when I read it, the very first thing that would pop into my mind is, oh man, I better read everything else in this document with a fine-tooth comb because clearly my success is dependent upon this information. But if you couldn't see the document and you just heard what we heard earlier, or you could see it, but In order to process it, you need to hear it clearly. You didn't have access to that information. So how is it fair that that student is held to the same rubric, the same instructions, the same accuracy level, the same rules, the same policy, the same process or procedure that other students are held to when they did not get the benefit of this document? Happens every day. Not because the professor that made that was intending on creating a barrier. They did not wake up that morning and say, oh, I'm going to park a Mack truck squarely in front of 20% of my students today. Not at all, right? Nobody thinks that. And in fact, they're trying to help. They didn't have to make that document. They could have left them on their own, said it's in the syllabus. I have a shirt that says hashtag it's in the syllabus. That's what could have been their answer. But instead, they made the document. They want their students to be successful. It was just one little piece in terms of digital accessibility that got missed. So how do we do better? So if you're making a document, and this is just the down and dirty version, I know that Ms. Rebecca Sitton, who is sitting in the back of the room and is going to talk after me, has given many trainings that will go in detail about how to do this. And she's fantastic, y'all. You should really attend anything that she does. Rebecca and I have been friends for, 18 years. Not that either of us are old enough to have been friends for 18 years. So in, let's say, Word or Google, right, they have the same thing, the styles options that you can pick from. When you make a heading in your document, something that looks like a heading, right? Maybe it's the title. We center it on the page, we make it a larger font, maybe we make it a different color. It looks like a heading. But we need to make sure that programmatically, that digital backbone of the document, it is actually a heading. It's as easy as highlighting that text, and in Google, you go to the styles, you hit the drop down, and you choose heading 1. Done. You can even use the addition that's going to pop out and say, modify heading 1 to match my selection. So if you already have a document that exists, you do not have to change what your document looks like, for the most part, to make it accessible. It can still look the way that you've always had it look. And we want to do things like use the actual layout or formatting options that are already built in to Google Docs, to Word. In the example, it looked like 2 columns, but the person had actually typed text and then spaced a lot, and then typed the next layer of text that they wanted to appear in a column without using the columns button, probably because they didn't know that it existed, right? But it's easy things like that that would have made that document 100% accessible. That's it. A columns button and the heading 1 button is all it would have taken for that document to be accessible. But you don't know what you don't know. So multimedia, captions. Has anyone ever made their own video, their voice? You're making a video, you're going to put it somewhere. Yep, whether professionally or personally, yep. We want to make sure that our videos are accurately captioned. Even if you haven't made your own video, maybe you've gone on YouTube or you've used a different resource to find a video that's speaking to the content you wanted. If you are watching a YouTube video and you click on the little CC button in the bottom right-hand corner, if a message comes up that says captions are auto-generated, those captions do not meet the WCAG 2.1 AA standard. In other words, they do not meet legal standard. It is impossible for auto-generated captions to meet that standard. What does a caption need to be? It needs to be about 99% accurate. We need to make sure that we're editing it for spelling, punctuation, and that if more than one person is talking, that we share who is speaking if the speaker changes, right? If you are making your own video, use a software to make the video that auto captions. You're like, Anne, you just said don't use auto captions. I know. Make it with that software. That could be WebEx, that could be Zoom, that could be Google Meet, that could be Teams, and then go in, review the automatically created captions, and just make the few edits that are necessary for them to be accurate. Don't sit there and retype everything you just said. Waste of time. Use the software to do the lion's share of the work and then just go in and fix it. Or if you're someone that uses a script, some people are like that, like they want a script if they're doing a video. Upload that script into the same software you used to make the video, and it will just make it captions. Done. That's all you have to do. Let's use the easier yet effective way. And also, provide the transcript. So that's so easy, right? Once you've done the caption part, any of those softwares will allow you to download just the transcript in at least a text file. It's the same thing as the captions, and it has like the timestamps in it. So you just link that next to your video. And now the video is captioned, and there's a transcript, which makes it fully accessible. We've met every part of the law, and we used AI, frankly, auto-generated captions for the most of it. We just added a small amount of our time to make it accurate. Hyperlinks, the good, the bad, and the ugly. Please, oh please, do not paste an entire URL into anything. One, because anybody looking at that URL has no idea where it's going to take them. We know that URLs are full of random letters, numbers, symbols. Doesn't make sense. Also, if you're using any kind of reading software, it's going to try to read that URL as though it's a series of words. On the screen, there is a multi-line URL. That will not make any sense to anyone. We also want to avoid ambiguous hyperlinks. So something that says click here is inefficient and is not enough. We want to use a hyperlink that the text of the link tells the person where that link is going to take them. Makes sense, right? Especially it's 2025. If I don't know where a link is going to take me, I guarantee you I'm not clicking on it, right? Anybody else, like I'm not doing that 100%, right? So if my student who uses a screen reader, or my student who has a cognitive impairment, or my student who uses reading software, or anyone else would have that same experience, then this just makes sense, right? How do I do that? Well, I type the text that I want to be my actual link, and then if you use Google, you can right-click and click link, and there's also an icon button that you can click on that says link. In Word, you right-click and click link, and there's an icon button you can click on that says link, same. And in either time, it will pop up with a box. You paste the URL in the box. That's it. Done. Now the text that I wanted to be the URL, or the actual hyperlink, is the hyperlink. I typed the text, I highlighted it, and I clicked a button. And now I'm done, and it's accessible, right? These are things that we can make happen. The first step, no matter how small, is the most important step, right? Please do not be intimidated by the deadline that's coming. Right? One of the biggest things we can do to mitigate risk is make a plan. Have a strategic access, like digital access plan. Let's get some goals in there, some KPIs in there, and let's just start assessing our plan. When we have a plan and we can show the Department of Justice, the Office of Civil Rights, Department of Education, Department of Labor, I could go on, that we have this plan in case they come calling or in case someone files a complaint, 9 times out of 10, they're going to show incredible deference to the university, meaning they are going to say, hey, let us review your plan. They might want to update the plan, and they will likely say, we're going to partner with you. We see that you are doing the right thing, that you understand what needs to happen, and you're moving in that direction. So instead of completing our digital investigation, which we do not want, we're going to partner with you. We might check in every 3 months, 6 months or so, make sure you're making progress on your plan. But we're going to stop what we're doing. We're going to consider you a partner. I would very much like the Office of Civil Rights and the Department of Justice to consider me a partner, right? So it's make a plan and start working. You are already doing that here. I know many of your staff who have been working on that. And by sharing what you're learning today with your colleagues and helping them understand, this really isn't that hard. We can do it. It broadens the access and it changes the lives of more people than you will ever know. So what are some key takeaways? Using and creating accessible materials does not mean sacrificing engagement or innovation. And just some quick things to remember, and you will have access to these slides. Actually, Grackle is making a PDF of the slides, and we're gonna make it fully accessible, and then it'll be distributed to you. Because we can't give things away unless we know that they're 100% accessible. It makes my CEOs cringe. And they're my boss, so I don't wanna do that. So some things to remember. Use the formatting features already built in to Google, to PowerPoint, to Sheets, to slides. They're already there. They're there to help make it accessible, and it's easier for us to use. Use proper numbered and bulleted lists. It's a bullet list if it doesn't matter what order it goes in. It's a numbered list if the order matters. Easiest way to think about it. Think about the content like a hierarchical outline. When you think about headings, there should be one heading 1 in your document for the most part. Everything after that, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, goes in order. The accessibility checker is helpful, but with emphasis, not perfect. So you need to take a look at it yourself. We can't trust that just because something flags in the access checker that it's actually a problem or that it isn't a problem or that they catch everything. Use color and emphasis appropriately. Create clear hyperlinks. Ensure that our videos have appropriate captions. It's not that hard. If we're finding a YouTube video and it doesn't have edited captions, YouTube is huge. I guarantee we can find some more videos that'll talk about the same thing. And then there are resources, there are companies, there are software. You already use Grackle Workspace as one. We are not the only one that has resources and services and softwares. Don't tell my salespeople that I said that. There's a reason why I am the VP of Consulting and not sales. Frankly, I just want it to be accessible. That's all I care about. Whatever resource you can find to do that, use it. If you have questions, talk to your internal folks. You have an amazing IT, you have an amazing access team. There are people that know a ton about this. You are so fortunate. Most universities, larger than you, smaller than you, and the same size, do not have the type of professionals that you have. And I mean that. I work with universities all over the world. It doesn't happen like that, like you have here, right? So use them and let them know how much you appreciate them. And then with that, I don't know if we're taking questions. I have a little bit of time before the next one. I have 5 minutes? 5 minutes. And if you have a question, we're going to bring a mic to you. So please don't say it without a mic. I know there are mics. We may not have planned for questions. That's my fault, not them. Anybody have questions?
Okay, cool. I thought Mark was wanting to ask a question.
Hello, this is Matthew. I was curious with you talking about the technology trying to read a URL as a word, what the best way is to list hashtags, because I've been told you should capitalize every word. So what are your thoughts?
Great questions. Hashtags, we should use Pascal case, which means the first letter of every word is capitalized. Also, if you're using hashtags in social media, they should come at the end of your post, not in the middle of your post. Same thing with any call outs like at NC State or at Grackle Docs should come at the end of your post, not the middle, but Pascal case is the answer to that. It makes it more readable for everyone, and screen readers will be able to access that. Any other questions? Comments, thoughts, jokes, limericks, rotten fruit, I'll take it all.
We have one here.
Okay.
Hi, this is Abby. I work for the College of Design, so we predominantly use Adobe software. So I was curious what you know about their accessibility features.
Okay. So, Adobe is an awesome company. They have chosen more recently to focus on their different online tools that do not necessarily have to do with access. That means that their software, like Adobe Pro, has several features within it that have not been updated in over a decade. One of those features that has not been updated since 2013 is the accessibility checker in Adobe. So for PDF, there is a specific standard that a PDF must meet to be accessible. It's called PDF/UA. UA means universal accessibility. And that standard has been updated quite a lot. The checker in Adobe checks some of those things, but it certainly does not check all of them, and its accuracy is questionable at best. So it's just not something I would use. If that is my only checker, I would use something else. There's 2 different checkers that are available that are both free that will check PDF accessibility based on that full standard. One of them is called the PAC checker, P-A-C. It is a free checker. You have to use it on a PC. The other one is Grackle's checker. It's called Grackle Go. Again, 100% free, no strings attached, just free. It's a protected web software, right? So it's a secure web browser, which means you can use it in any operating system, including Mac. Both of them are free. Both of them will check that. So I would just say if you're using Adobe Pro maybe to edit for accessibility, that's fine, right? There's softwares that would help even more than that, but that's not a bad one. But if for checking accessibility, use Grackle Go, use PAC. The nice thing, I can speak to Grackle Go, it tells you what the error is, kind of explains it to you, and then shows you where in the document the error exists, so you know where to go back and fix it. So I would encourage the use of that kind of a tool. Again, no shade on Adobe. I actually know the guy that coded the very first Adobe accessibility checker. Great dude. And he admits that they're just not focusing on that right now. So use a software that is. Yeah,
Got a question?
probably our last question.
Hi, my name is Erica. I work in the College of Sciences, and I actually work with donors instead of students. And so one of the things that we do is send out a lot of print materials to our board and for invitations for events, things like that. Do you have any recommendations when using those print materials or making those accessible to readers of some kind? Or we include QR codes a lot or anything like that?
Sure. So if it's going to be printed and that's what you're sending, make sure that anything that might be scannable, like a QR code, is labeled visually so they know what it is. Also, have an accessible electronic copy and put in there somewhere, if you would like access to an electronic and accessible version of this document, please email whatever, or please visit this URL. Obviously, in a printed document, the URL has to be there, because if it's just those few words, no one can click on those words anymore. But be ready to offer a fully accessible version. It's hard to know when you're mass mailing who needs large print or otherwise. So even better, if you have an email list, echo what you send in print in email. And in email, make sure that whatever is linked or whatever is there is fully accessible. And that way you don't even have to ask, do you need an accessible version of this? You're just sending it out anyway. The people who want it in print, get it in print. I get that. And plus, we really want our donors to get the information. Like, that's real important. And sometimes our donors are more seasoned individuals who may or may not be affected by eyesight in ways that they were not when they were a student. So it is important. Send it out, dual send, right? Same thing if you post anything on social media that has images, that has words in an image, or that is just an image, make sure that you put alt text. Make sure. Once that deadline passes in this coming April, every social media post that we make from that point forward must be accessible. So let's just start practicing now. That's what I would say. Thank you guys so much. Thanks for having me. I love doing this stuff. I hope it was helpful. And I'm really excited for you to hear Rebecca. She's up next. I can, I guess, do that in case you need our info for anything.
Thank you so much, Dr. Detler. That was a fantastic presentation. Well, hello everyone here in person and those of you online on YouTube, welcome. I'm Kim Vasilius, the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Outreach, Communication, and Consulting within the Office of Information Technology here at NC State. And I am now the honor to introduce one of our own, Rebecca Sitton, who has been referenced many times already today. She's the Digital Accessibility Coordinator for OIT, who has been a true champion and promoter for digital accessibility long before she had the official title. Rebecca is a passionate accessibility professional with 25 years of experience in universal design, accessible technology, digital accessibility, and employee and student accommodations. She has more than a decade of extensive experience and knowledge in higher education, applying accessibility principles in a rigorous digital environment to exceed compliance and create a culture of accessibility. Rebecca will be sharing with us some context for how each of us can bring our own digital materials up to the new standards using a framework developed called Learn It, Audit It, and Improve It. Please welcome Rebecca.
We're going to get some technology changed out here real quick. And, all right, back there. And then, yep. All righty.
Put it right up.
I'm going to look at it. Yep.
This is for the clicker.
Oh, awesome.
There we go.
Okay, awesome. All right, yes, I'm Rebecca. I am the University Digital Accessibility Coordinator, and we are having a little bit of an issue with the Cloudflare things that are going on the internet today with our cart provider. So I am also going to use Google's embedded auto transcription tool while we are talking today to just kind of mitigate our live cart provider that is in the room. And this should be up here. There we go. All right. So thank you all for being here and spending today with us. Anne did a lovely presentation on the law and the ways that we can improve accessibility within our environments and the documents and the spaces that we create. And I'm going to give you a 30-minute little fun summary of what we can do using just one tool, because our goal is for you to know you're going to learn something today. When we know better, we do better, right? So today I'm going to talk a little bit about NC State and our history. This is not new to us. We've been doing this a while. We've had an official policy since 2006 that pretty much states it's all our responsibility to create accessible digital content. So it's a shared responsibility. We all create email, we all create documents, some of us manage web pages, some of us develop content, some of us post to social media on behalf of the university. So we're going to learn how to do some of that better. But in 2000, we weren't doing such a great job. We were moving into the digital space in the libraries, and we had some students file a complaint. So that made us get on this a little bit earlier than a lot of institutions. In 2003, we hired the first IT accessibility coordinator, which is my position, and we formed a work group. That work group developed a policy that you just read, and it went into effect in 2006. So we've been trying to ensure our public facing and the tools that you use on campus are accessible for a while now. In 2017, accessible technology became part of the procurement process, and we also instituted a university-wide accessibility scanner. It wasn't Pope Tech then, but it's Pope Tech now. And then in 2023, your educational environments, Moodle or LMS, also has an accessibility checker. In 2024, the ADA was updated, and we have to meet compliance because we live in Raleigh, North Carolina, with a population over 50,000 by 2026. So today, and every day, maybe you learn a little bit more about digital accessibility and the tools that you use. You're going to audit it, check either A, the document in front of you, or look at what you do in that digital space and take an inventory of it, and then you're going to improve it. So really, if you haven't taken the Digital Accessibility Basics course in Reporter, we're going to summarize the quick version of it for you today in 30 minutes. And I'm going to teach you how using Google Docs, which is something that we're provided that most of us use on a daily basis, how to apply those 7 things within that document. Ann's touched on these. The examples that you're going to see on the screen are within Google Docs, but let's talk about heading and structure. If you have not used the structure and the design tab, then it is your styles tab, and you will see usually normal text, paragraph text, heading text, and you can pull down that list and see order there. Basically, you use those styles to order your document. You're only going to use one heading 1 per document or a title attribute, and you're going to keep things in order. So if you use a heading 1 and you need a little bit, break it up into sections, you're going to use a heading 2. You're never going to jump from a heading 1 to a heading 4. People won't find it. You can choose, as Ann said, what you want it to look like. Make it what you want, then update that style to match it. List. Lists are real easy. How many of y'all use the list tools at the top of Google Docs? Yeah, I see a lot of hands. Who still uses stars in a tab? Surprisingly enough, there are still people that do that. How many of you use the 1 dot space space, 2 dot space space? Yeah, those are not read to a screen reader in an appropriate way. So, any of your tools, whether it's Google or Microsoft Office or Canva or Moodle, look for the list tools. Links. Anne gave a great example of the long URL. You never want to use that in the digital space. Even Go links, which we use a lot of Go links here at NC State, you will want to make that meaningful. You shortened a long URL down to a smaller URL, but it's still going to read go.ncsu.edu/OEO-FORUM. So just say OEO forum activity, and that's going to tell the user where they're going. If you are using that Go link on a display board that's purely visible, yes, that's where you use that Go link. Don't use that generic language. Click here. Go here. Tell people where they're going. They're going to the student code of conduct. They're going to the counseling resources. They're going to the regulation. Alternative text. Yes, in your Google, if you right-click on the image, you'll get an alt text box or an alt text menu item, and then the alt text box will show up in the corner or on the sidebar, sorry. Go ahead and describe that image. You know what you want it to say and what it represents. Go ahead and put it in there. One of the things Google has not done so well is given us an opportunity to make it decorative. So at this point, if it's decorative, it doesn't even understand the quote, if anybody understands what that is in the digital space, you must go ahead and write decorative so it leaves people not wondering if it's decorative or meaningful. ChatGPT is a great way, as Anne said, to find alternative text and give you a starting point. Take that image, drop it in, help me describe it. Then copy that back into your alt text box. So anytime you drop an image in the digital space, look for that way you can put in alt text. I'm going to show you Google here in a minute, but you have that in Moodle, you have it in WordPress, you have it in most of your tools, even Canva, to add that alternative text. In Scribe, if we have anybody using Scribe in here, you have that tool as well. So learn it, be mindful of it, and any tool that you pull up to use in the digital space to create content, look for it. Tables. In Google, tables are a little bit different. When you make a table in Google, it's not intuitive to make a header row. Microsoft used to do it this way many years ago, but when you want to create that header row so that it tells somebody that's blind when they're navigating that table, correlates what the row header is to the information in the actual column, you have to pin the row. Once you pin that row using the pin, that table becomes a little bit more accessible. We don't have a way to pin the column, but we do have a way to pin the row. In a minute, when we use the Grackle tool, I'll show you how you can do both. Color contrast. Anne did a great job of showing you some reasons why you want to use good color contrast in a document. It should never be the only means to represent something. I've caught a couple of trainings recently where they're like, click on the blue box. Well, if you can't see color and your screen reader doesn't read the color of the box, use the label of the box. Click HIPAA rules. Got it. Never place text over pictures. See this a lot on campus. There's an example up here of a website from WellRec. They're doing better now. It only takes one time to be called out in my presentation before it gets removed. Can you see that says wellness and recreation? No. A lot of people say, well, I'm going to use black. That's going to be better. Not really. Throw a background on it. This was a third-party tool called Jotform. Jotform will let you do things in an accessible way, but you have to know to do them, right? And that's really about this learn it. That's my thing, just learn it, because then you look for it and you do it in the different tools that you use every day. Multimedia. This one's a good one because we all do a lot of stuff on social media, and there is a really cool trend to do cute things with no narration, right? So when we're thinking about videos, I want you to think about, is it verbally descriptive and telling you the same thing that you would get visually? Does it have accurate captioning? Can the viewer control the settings? Is there settings to speed it up or slow it down? There's a lot of tools that do screen grabs and produce a video, but if somebody knew that software really well, they're probably going through that app or that software really quickly, and I might not be as familiar with the app or the web page, and I need to slow it down. So in that player, make sure people can speed it up or slow it down so that they have time to process that information. And if you're producing podcasts, we have a lot of podcasts on campus, make sure you are getting a transcript and posting it on your website, okay? A lot of these podcasts are picked up by Spotify, Apple Music. They don't include the podcast link. So you have to make sure that if you're producing that podcast, you're at least making it available in a link on your website. Okay, audit it. So these are oh, wait a minute, I want y'all to hear this video. Okay, fun thing. The video that I had here was created with Scribe. Don't use the Scribe screen capture if you're a Scribe user. It does not play well in the accessibility world. But I want you to close your eyes, and I'm going to play you a video, and I'm going to tell you to open your eyes. This is a video on how to use an app, and I want you to tell me if you couldn't see it very well or blind, if you would know how to use your app. Let's see if it... Open your eyes. Your readers on, would you be able to know how to use the app? No. Cool, groovy music. So, just an example, because I see this on social media all the time. I've seen initiatives across campus create groovy videos that have no narrative. That's cutting out a big part of your audience. Okay, so the second part is to audit it. So once we've created a document, we've used our skills that we've gained, knowing about our headings, our list, our alt text, our tables, we need to audit it. And we can audit it using one of Ann's products that we have on campus. Google Docs, Google Slides, and Google Sheets all have a Grackle associated checker that you can download from the Google Workspace. Other tools that we have on campus have checkers in them as well, audit tools. Microsoft, if you use the Microsoft line of products, Office, they all have them embedded. If you use Canva, they have them embedded. We have an accessibility checker embedded in WordPress, and we have an accessibility checker embedded in Moodle. So in general, there's probably some tool to help you out in the digital space to see if you have done your work in the right way. There's also more resources on the training and resource page on the digital accessibility website. So we're going to check something. All right. You can use these checkers to check your document, very small, very much in front of you. But you also need to know what you do in the digital space. So we have created a digital asset inventory. So this is a spreadsheet that will go through and let you look at documents or reports that you produce, websites, any multimedia, any social media, and give you a chance to document maybe even training that you need to take or learn about to make sure you're doing and using those products in an accessible way. It also will help you track software and mobile apps that you might be using in your space. Again, that list of resources and trainings available on the Accessibility Hub under Digital Accessibility. And then Grackle for Workspace is one of those resources as well. We'll tell you how to download this tool, install it if you have not. So if you have your computer and you want to join along, we're going to remediate a document pretty quickly. So I can show you, this isn't hard. One of the biggest things I've hit is that's too much for me, it's too hard to do. And I'm like, it's really not. Once you make this a part of your practice and you start using that accessibility checker, it becomes second nature. We've all come to using these products by opening them and starting clicking on things to make them look or behave the way we want them to, very rarely going through official training, right? So if you want to join in on the fun and have your computer, you can go to go.ncsu.edu/OEOACTIVITY, or you can choose to open up one of your own personal Google Docs. All right, this time I'm going to jump out. I'm going to go to this document. All right, if you've seen the OIT news lately, this is the article, a rough draft. This is what I authored for the OIT news, but I kind of switched it up a little bit, and you may be able to see already there's some issues here. Anybody in the audience want to point anything out here? They see anything offhand that might be a problem? Contrast, 100%. If you followed me when I point out some of the issues across NC State's web pages, color contrast is one of the big ones because everybody loves gray. You're not using the right color gray. So let's start with that. Oh, actually, I want to start with something else. I want you to use your Grackle checker to check your document, but I also want you to do things in the space and also audit it. So you can do it either way, but a lot of people, when they first start, they will use the Grackle to help guide them where they miss things. So we're going to check our document. And to do that, we're going to go to Extensions. We're going to go down to Grackle Docs. Can you guys see that okay? And we are going to launch it. And what it's going to do is check against some of those standards that you don't need to know the ins and outs of necessarily as a content creator. You just kind of need to know those 7 basic things. And it's going to check it. The one thing that I do want to point out here is Grackle is really good at making an accessible PDF. So I don't know how long some of y'all have been here, but back through the last 15 years since I've been here, we've done some fun things on campus. We've done the PDF, this is probably not a great word to say right now, PDF Purge, PDF Extreme Makeover. We've done our website accessibility challenge. We've done No Mouse Mondays. There's a lot of different initiatives that we have done over the years. But this one thing that Grackle does really well is keep up with the standards and help us check them. So right now, we have 19 of 22 checks that have passed. So some of the things that haven't passed are images. We don't have alt text behind them. We only have one image, but it does tell you where you can find it, especially in a long document, and how to tag it. So we're going to go in here and locate it, and guess what? It's right there. If we had been doing this work, putting our alt text as we created this document, we could right-click on it, go over, find the alt text, and write that alt text in here. Now, Anne did show you a really cool tool that said auto-generate alt text. That's in Microsoft. All right, so you can put that image description here, and it's going to stay in the document. Or you can go back to Grackle, locate, and that word tag means, guess what? We can put that alt text in here. The one good thing that Grackle does for us, and Google's a little late to the party on, is being able to mark it as an artifact, which means a screen reader is going to skip over it completely. If I'm not using Grackle, I would need to go ahead and call that decorative, right? Alt text description, easy enough. Digital accessibility icon. All right. And then I can add that alternate text to the catalog. So if I have this image in Google Drive, it's at least going to store it as my subject matter pertains to it today. You might need to manipulate it, and I may have misspelled that. We're going to update that, and in a minute, that is going to go away. What else do we have to do here? So it says, hey, headings should be used. Okay, what do you mean? Some headings are suspiciously empty, right? Okay, well, I wonder what they're saying. So I'm going to go look at the document structure. Oh, I've got a heading 2, a heading 3. There's another heading 3. I don't ever have a heading 1. Something's missing here. So now that you know we got to start with a heading 1 or a title attribute, you come back up here, where's my title? There it is. So I'm going to go in here and make that a heading 1. Apply heading 1. Or if I really wanted to keep this hideous, inaccessible gray, I could. But we're going to apply that heading, which is an appropriate contrast. All right, so we fixed that. So we have a heading 1, we have a heading 2, we have a heading 3. Follows logical structure. All right. I'm going to recheck. And you can recheck as often as you want. In the Microsoft product, it does kind of delete it as you fix it. But here, we're just going to recheck it. And you'll see that the document images are now checked out. And in a minute, I'll probably say we have 20 of 22 items that are passing. Still need to check our headings. Well, it's still analyzing, and that's okay too. Should be properly nested. I do want to come in here to the tables. So within the table tag, you can tag the tables with headers, a header row, and a header column. So this is another really great thing where Grackle kind of fills in the gap for Google. So if you have a long table and you need more than a heading row, you need that column row, you'd want to do it through Grackle. So I'm gonna go down here to this table, and we're gonna pin this row here. That's what we should do inside of Google. We're gonna pin it. But we can also label it with both a row and column header here. Okay. Landmarks. Headers and footers should be used. That has a check mark with an exclamation point. So that's something you can evaluate kind of in your mind and manually, and if it applies to your document. This is a one-pager, maybe 1 page and a half. Do you really need a header and a footer? If you have a document that's over maybe 5 pages, I would use a header because every time a screen reader gets to the top of that document, if you're repeating it across the top, it breaks their reading. So if you want to say, I see this in books that I convert, chapter 2, lines and squares and geometry. If you put that at the top of every page for visual representation and the page number, it gets really old for a screen reader that has to skip through that content in the middle of a paragraph every time the page changes. So put information in headers and footers that are repetitive. All right. High color contrast should be used. I love it. So within Grackle, it'll also give you the contrast ratio. In the tech world and techie speak, it's 4.5 to 1. But we can see we're going to locate. We're going to click locate. That takes you right to where it is in the document, and you can fix it. So we're going to locate this phase 1. I think that was the light blue. Let's go back and look. Yes, 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 yes. Horrible. So let's go in, and how do we change that? Let's go in and use. Hopefully that's the right tool. Let's use a bigger, bolder blue. Did I do the highlighting? I did. Sorry. Let's take that off and use the text tool for that darker blue, right? Okay. So now when we go back through and check this, it's going to pass. Let's go locate this other one. Come on. Oh, that's it. All right. And we can make that even a darker, stronger green for our accessibility. If you want to make it green, you can make it black, you can make it anything you want. But I would say make your heading that color. But I was just using this as an example. So there we go. All right. So as you use your tools, the other one was the list tool. Easy to make a list in the right way. Highlight what you want. Go over and click your either unordered list, which are your bullets, or your ordered list, which are your numbers. And there you go. And if you don't like that bullet style, guess what? Most programs give you an option to make it a bullet in an icon or a shape that you prefer. Stars, squares, whatever. Also in Google, if you use the check mark box, it does make it an accessible check mark. So you can make a checklist with it reading as a checkbox, checked or unchecked, and the person's able to navigate that and check it or uncheck it. All right, so I have about 5 more minutes. We can recheck these. I don't know if I've got them all. But you see how easy it is to use the tool as a guide? Hopefully, you're going to do all those things. You're going to put your alt text in as soon as you put that image in. You're going to use that list tool as you are creating because now you know to use it in any program you're going to be creating in. You're going to check your color contrast. The biggest way to do that is use the templates the tool has given you. Most of your templates are accessible, but when you go off those templates, like in PowerPoint or Google Slides, it can get off. All right, so it's still analyzing. I'm going to just say that it is, because we're in tally with a lot of people, Or, we're still getting stuck with Cloudflare stuff. Wait a minute. I have my sticky note is from Cloudflare. Picked it up at a conference. Lovely. All right. So hopefully you have learned something today to make your job a little bit easier in the digital space and how to do it in an accessible way. I've got a lot more tricks to teach you. Come to the trainings and the accessibility website. We do have the accessibility website in here. You will find this Learn It, Audit, and Improve It kind of campaign on OIT News. And you can come through and look at the 2 trainings that we have in Reporter, Digital Accessibility Basics, and the quick little 7-minute video of Understanding Digital Accessibility, Your Legal Responsibility at NC State. We have all the different ways you can audit your content, either using the resources tab, resources page, or we have the spreadsheet that you can make your own and then improve it. Because we want you to have, and this university to have, a welcoming, open, easy digital space for everybody to move in, right? All right. If you're not familiar with the Accessibility Hub, it's accessibility.ncsu.edu. And from there, you can find out about a lot of things in this space. You can find out about accommodations if you're a student, an employee, or if you're a visitor on campus, what we can do to support you. If you're looking for accommodations in housing or transportation, the university services, that site's going to help you. Where I want you to go, as it pertains to today, is the roles and responsibilities each of us have on campus, what the fundamentals are of digital accessibility, our resources and our training, all those tools we provide you, how we're going to get there to compliance, and then each college and division has a digital accessibility lead that is going to help them navigate this process. So you can log in, find your digital accessibility lead, and ask them questions as well. All right. Let me come back to my slideshow. How many of y'all learned something today, hopefully? Yeah, I love it. Great. Let me turn back on my captions. All right. Okay, key takeaways. Okay, this applies to everything we do in the digital space. Learn the accessibility basics. Continue to learn about the accessibility of the tools within the products you use to create, manage, purchase your digital content. Inventory the digital items you create, manage, or purchase. Audit them for that accessibility. And then start producing accessible content now. Start looking for the way to do this right now. And as you go through some of your older stuff, you use these tools to remediate it before you send it back out or before you post it in your course or you put it on the website. Moving forward, review that digital accessibility website for the resources you need. Find your digital accessibility lead on campus and get in touch with them. Review the Pathway to Compliance website, review those resources, and then reach out to accessibility@ncsu.edu if you need support or training or have a question or wonder about the accessibility of a tool that you don't see listed. I've reviewed, I think since July 1st, 127 different products on campus. I probably have seen it, may not have seen it, but let me know. And our commitment is that we're going to create digital environments where every member of our community can fully participate. So, it's 1:36, I'm 1 minute over. If you have questions, please reach out. You can email me directly, you can email accessibility, you can come to one of the trainings. We have OIT training staff here also that leads trainings, but we're here to support you in your journey. All right. We have a 20-minute break coming up. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. I've got a
Thank
little
you.
for you here.
Awesome.
Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So do you want to thank Rebecca one more time? I feel like I was learning so much. We are actually just so blessed to have you on our campus. You know, I mean, to have a resource like this, a lot of campuses don't have a Rebecca there. So I just really appreciate you, and we're going to be contacting you to make our documents even more digitally accessible moving forward. So I want to thank everyone here in the room, but also those of you online on YouTube channel for joining us for our keynote and our plenary sessions. If you are online in the YouTube environment, we're going to be dropping a link for you to give us some feedback on your sessions today. Otherwise, for everyone else in this room, we will be breaking for the professional and development workshops at this time. We do have about a 20-minute break, which is great, because we will be transitioning this room, and then you'll be going and finding your other workshops for the afternoon. And I'm going to read out what rooms you're going to, okay? So the sessions will begin right at 2 o'clock, and we have the fundamentals of equal opportunity. We'll be in room 3210, neurodivergent learners and leaders in room 3222. Strategies to lead yourself well will be right here in Piedmont Ballroom. We will ask anyone staying for that session to just move forward. They will be kind of cleaning up some of the equipment back there, so we want to make sure that you can, fully be engaged in this space. Take your belongings with you. We are not coming back to this room unless you're staying here for the workshop. So take that with you. We will be meeting up again in 1887, the bistro that's right down the hall, just a few doors down, and that will be our networking reception. And at that time, those Padlet spotlights that you've been submitting, the full deck, we've only been seeing part of it, but the full deck will be displayed during our networking reception. I really encourage you to seek some of those folks out who are here today, who got some of those spotlights, and connect with them about the great things that they're already doing on our campus. So let's depart, take a stretch break, share with each other, and we'll meet back at 2 o'clock.